A table holds power, be it a wooden, metal, round, square, long, small, literal or metaphorical table. There, decisions are made, conversations are held, papers are written, gifts are created, voices are recognized, and inclusion is offered. Holidays and special events are celebrated with family and friends, and there is abundance. Even when the serving bowls aren't overflowing with nourishment, the spirit of hospitality spills out and over in invitation and welcome. There is power at the table and in the table. If you've always had a seat at the table, it's hard to understand that statement. Only those who have not had a space or a place or a seat or even an invitation truly comprehend what power the table holds. The table holds the very real possibility of equality, mutuality, sharing of food and soul and community. The table offers the chance for new life. A 16-year-old high school student knew some of the pain and inequality that can come from being denied a place at the table. She described her daily ordeal. She would walk into the lunchroom and see everyone sitting at tables, but knew that going up to them would only end in rejection. She had searched for a place to eat, knowing that if she sat by herself, there would be so much embarrassment because people saw her as the girl who had nowhere to sit. She felt extremely alone and isolated and would feel sick to her stomach. This girl created a way to help others navigate the treacherous waters of the high school cafeteria because she had experienced them firsthand. She created the app Sit With Us that lets students invite others to join them at a table so that when someone walks into that lunchroom or cafeteria, there's at least one other they can sit with. The power of inclusion and acceptance in school can save a life, just as the lack of it can take a life. The table holds power. A popular advertisement for a grocery store begins with a woman distressed. Everyone in the building where she lives is cut off from one another, attending to their own private worlds and cell phones. Though crammed together on an elevator, no one speaks or pays attention to anyone else. Then she has an idea. She puts up her little table, complete with tablecloth, candles, dishware, and food, out in the middle of the hallway of her apartment building. One by one, neighbors and families join her, bringing their own foods, cultures, diversity, and gifts together. A community is built by a woman with a vision of what could be: some food and a table. The tagline for the ad is, "When we eat together, good things happen. We share a bit of our lives, we talk, we laugh, and we share the foods we love. We get a little closer." There is power at the table, the power to create community and to change lives, to make true neighbors and friends out of strangers who happen to live near us. It's no wonder such an image has captured the heart and voice of so many of us in our congregations and small groups. When it is announced that we will be singing hymn number 285 from Community of Christ Sings, there is often an audible gasp accompanied by, "I love this song." Hymn writer Shirley Arena Murray captured our hearts with the text to this powerful Latter-day favorite, "For Everyone Born." She wrote it as a hymn of peace and justice, painting for us the picture of what God's shalom could look like in very real terms: clean water, bread, a safe place for growing. Basic ideas taken from the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. She describes her thinking, saying, "I've tried to put them in a context which relates directly to the gospel, but without excluding those who are not of the Christian faith. But in a more specific way, and to me an authentic one, it relates deeply and immediately to the manifesto of Jesus and all that he taught." Shirley shared that in her mind, the table began as the table of the world in the peaceable kingdom, an imaginary place of justice and joy where everyone gathers and is fed. But inevitably, it was taken up as a communion hymn in the context of the holy table. And in places where exclusion by the church is a source of injustice and pain, it has been used to ask for a place at the table, along with every other believer. At the Lord's table, there is a place for everyone, for there is abundant love and abundant grace to share. There is a life-changing event to be remembered, and we recommit our lives to a life changer. For us, the meal we eat today at this table, the Lord's Supper, is representative of the life and sacrifice of the Christ, and serves as a renewal of our baptismal covenant. And this is a table that holds life-giving power, not in the emblems themselves, but in what they represent. This is a table that challenges us to reconcile with God, ourselves, and others from whom we feel separated. This is a table that reminds us that we are forgiven and accepted as we are, and that even in our brokenness, we are invited once again to follow the one who gave his all so that love wins in this world. That is a powerful table. I remember a communion service years ago when the minister reminded us that the beautifully carved table covered with starched white cloths and holding bread and juice was not the congregation's table. He then said that this table was not Community of Christ's table. It was the Lord's table. And as I knelt for the prayers, I saw an image in my mind's eye of myself standing at the base of a hill, and before me was a long table covered with foods of all kinds. It was like a banquet table, and I knew that I was serving as host. From the hills that stood before me came people of all kinds, Jews, Christians, children, adults, all sizes, all colors, all ethnicities, and all were coming to eat at this table. It felt like a party. There was so much joy. People came, ate, and shared with one another. And I became aware of the gentle presence of Christ standing next to me. Without a word, he quietly turned and began walking away from the table. Some of those who had come to eat followed, while others remained eating and talking, and eventually they returned up the hill from where they'd come. There was no sense of rejection, only the invitation to come and eat. For some, the meal led to following the one who truly hosts our table. For others, that was not part of their story, at least not yet. For everyone who came down the hill, there was a place at the table. Today, you are invited to the most powerful table of all. And at the table in Community of Christ, there's a place for everyone. Others who share with us may have different understandings and practices within their own faith and tradition. But we invite all who participate to do so as an expression of the faithful unity and love exemplified in the life of Jesus Christ, in whose name we worship. Doctrine and Covenants 164, verse 2, shares that God's grace, revealed in Jesus Christ, freely moves throughout creation, often beyond human perception, to achieve divine purposes in people's lives. The power-filled movement of the Holy Spirit in the lives of others may be imperceptible to us, yet very real in the life of the one in whom God is working to bring transformation, healing, and hope. Further counsel in this section reminds us that when the church gathers for communion, we are invited to reaffirm our own baptismal covenant, to reconcile strained relationships, and to commit together to the church's mission of promoting communities of generosity, justice, and peacefulness. This is not a simple meal, though the emblems are basic foods, bread and wine. This is a meal that holds world-changing power if we take it seriously. This meal has the potential for uniting us in our sacred communities, to let go of the burdens of resentment and anger, to heal the wounds we've caused one another, and to receive the healing balm we need as well. This sacramental experience has the power to change not only us, but our world, for it reminds us as followers of Christ to do as he did, to live and love as he did, without reservation and without exception, to love all, and all means all, to make sure that everyone born has not only a place at the table, but has all of the elements of life that justice and peace demand. Doctrine and Covenants invites us to explore all the ways the Lord's Supper can spiritually form the church community into a true and living expression of the life, sacrifice, resurrection, and continuing presence of Christ. Inherent in this sacrament is the divine call for the church to be a sacramental offering for the blessing, healing, and peace of creation. A story is told in the Gospel of Luke of one who was hosting a huge dinner, and when all was ready, he sent out one of his slaves to let the people know it was time to come to the table. But one after another, they offered their excuses. Sorry, I have to work and I can't come. Oh, I hate to decline, but I must. My child is busy with sports that day. I'd love to come, but I'm on a special diet and I can't risk it. Sorry, I'm just too busy. If you've ever hosted a party or meal and received similar excuses, you can understand how the host must have felt. Rejected, let down, unimportant, hurt. But as Jesus went on with his parable, he only indicated that the host was very angry and ordered the slave to go out and invite all those who ordinarily don't get invited to the tables of large parties. You know, the blind, the lame, the poor, the unacceptable. For the party was not going to be put on hold simply because invited guests couldn't make it. The reign of God will be experienced, even if we fail to pick up our invitation. The table before you, the meal you are about to eat, may look simple, but it's not. For the sacrament of the supper of the Lord has the power to remind us once again we are forgiven and accepted as we are, and that even in our brokenness we are invited once again to follow the one who gave his all so that love wins in this world. Accept the invitation and observe who has not yet been invited, and invite them to come and be a part of not only this meal, but of the world-changing movement that we are a part of. Invite them to join with the leader of this movement, Jesus Christ, and to learn to follow his ways in a community where everyone, young, old, rich, poor, just and unjust, abuser, abused, has a place at the table. Help them find their seat and invite all to share in the blessings of community created in the name of the one whose life, ministry, death, resurrection, and ongoing movement we remember today, Jesus Christ. And may we approach each table we see, each table in our life, be it at work or home, restaurant or campground, formal or informal, as a place of extravagant hospitality and radical inclusion. May we ensure that all experience a sense of equal worth, that conversations be sacred and authentic, that abundance be shared, and community be formed in the likeness and with the Spirit of the living Christ. Amen.